Hello. Right, I'm taking us away from equines and back onto the subject of cats and focusing on some work that we're doing here in the UK and how we're working in partnership to tackle the UK's cat problem. So I'm Justine Pannett, I'm the Senior Campaigns Manager with the RSPCA, but I'm also one of the founder members of the Cat Population Control Group. The Cat Population Control Group is a collaboration of 9 animal welfare groups, many of whom are here today, and we've joined forces to tackle this problem to increase neutering rates among cats in the UK. Okay, so for the benefit of our international delegates, the RSPCA is one of a number of animal welfare organisations, large and small, tackling the sort of cat population problem. The problems we see are the high numbers of cats in rescue centres as opposed to sort of high numbers living on the streets, although that exists too, but just perhaps not as visibly as in other countries. It's estimated that there's about, about £9 million is spent every year by rescue organisations on subsidised neutering schemes. But as we concluded back in 2012, the problem continues. We're not actually sort of getting to the root of the problem. So we know that the principal solution to the cat population problem is neutering. But what we didn't know back in 2012 was why some people neuter and others don't. And there's obviously been lots of work in other countries sort of looking at this. And in fact, it's quite reassuring from talks yesterday that the issues are sort of primarily the same. So I'm not going to sort of come up with something completely different, hopefully, here. Okay, so just a quick run through. I'm just going to go through very quickly sort of what some of those research findings were, but then talk a little bit more about what we've been doing with the research findings. And some of these aren't sort of hugely surprising here. 85% of litters of kittens born in the UK are unplanned. The more litters of kittens a cat has, the more likely they are to enter the stray cat population. 14% of first litters are born to cats under the age of 6 months. Now that's a big issue because the age of neutering for own cats in the UK has traditionally been 6 months. So obviously we've got quite a high number that are actually born to cats under that age. And 27% are born to cats in the 7 to 12 month age bracket. Now looking at the owners, the younger the owner, the less likely they are to neuter. So particularly 16 to 34-year-olds, we identified as a target audience and where we need to be focusing our neutering efforts, as well as those of the lower economic statuses. Our research showed that men are actually less likely to neuter, but actually it's women who tend to make the decisions in households, so actually that's where we need to concentrate our efforts. And interestingly, people who spontaneously acquire a kitten, that is, sort of someone who's acquired a kitten from a friend or a neighbour, rather than actually making a planned decision to get a kitten or a cat, they are 50% less likely to neuter. We also discovered a number of other sort of interesting findings from our research. The first point sort of stems around confusion, that a lot of confusion exists among cat owners about neutering. So sibling matings, for example, I'm sure many of you have experienced this. People really don't appreciate that boy and girl cats will mate, whether they are brother and sister or not, they will still do it. What the vet says, that if the vet says that the cat doesn't need to be neutered until 6 months, that's how it is. Cats that only go out occasionally, people really think that, if their cat just pops out for a wee, they're not going to get pregnant. They do. And just because she's a kitten, she won't get pregnant herself. But as our research shows, obviously cats under the age of 6 months do get pregnant. That's where we see a lot of pregnancies. And then, having had a litter of kittens, kittens are starting to grow up. She pops out, oops, comes home pregnant again. Another finding, and this is sort of very much key to sort of our behaviour change work, is the strength of anthropomorphism in sort of people's decision making about their cats. People really do apply sort of human emotions believing their cats will make great mums, shouldn't be denied the right to have a litter of kittens. But interestingly, the reality of having a litter of kittens is nowhere near good as the romance. So having a litter of kittens serves as a trigger to neuter. Unfortunately, it's a little bit too late because mum's gone out, got pregnant again, and we're stuck in this cycle. We also discovered, and this was really quite worrying, that the campaigns that we'd been delivering, the RSPCA, we've been around since 1824, but not just the RSPCA, lots of other UK animal welfare organisations, focusing on the overpopulation problem, basically telling people they were bad by not having their cats neutered, was wrong. We got it completely wrong. So that isn't a motivator for behaviour change. But in fact, what is the well-being of the cat. And so focusing on cat owners as being the loving, caring cat owner was where we needed to focus our efforts if we were going to increase neutering rates. So in 2013, the Cat Population Control Group was formed. We're made up of all of these organisations along the bottom here and supported by the University of Bristol. The first thing we did was to align our public messaging. Having discovered that we were getting it wrong, we needed to sort of address that issue pretty swiftly. We came up with a key message bank and started to sort of push our revised messaging out through our sort of communication channels. We also developed a number of other work streams, engaging with the veterinary profession. As we've talked about, as other people have talked about, vets are who cat owners listen to. We really need to be working with them. Also how to engage with harder to reach audiences, developing those community outreach programs that we've heard sort of being talked about today, but looking at how we apply that here in the UK. We've got a huge network of animal welfare charities across the UK, so this is work still to be done, but supporting those charities to sort of deliver the same message, the same policies, the same activities that we're promoting through the Cat Population Control Group to make sure we are joined up. So here's some examples of that revised public messaging. Over here on the left was how we've collaborated as a group. We used World Spay Day for the last 2 years running to deliver some public communication, but also some community activities. So joining up with local vets, encouraging our local branches, local animal welfare groups to work together to deliver community neutering drives. Some other examples of how we're focusing on love and care and protect, using all those sort of key words to drive an increase in neutering rates. Okay, changing the language as well. When we used to talk about neutering, when we used to talk about this issue, we would use the word neuter, but when we did our research, we found out that the only people using the words neuter were animal welfare organisations and vets. The public use anything but, so we had to change our language. And we've focused primarily over the last few years on myth busting, so tackling this one litter myth, going head to head on that issue, and also sort of educating on things like sibling matings. And we've embraced anthropomorphism. We were talking about this yesterday, in one of the talks. Actually, we found that it's really important. You can't go head to head with this issue. We need to go with it. So here's just a few examples of some of our how we've approached our communication channels as well. We know that obviously we're talking to cat lovers, but we also know that the people we need to talk to don't necessarily engage with our social media channels, so we need to go out and find them. Facebook is very much where they are, so we've been over the last couple of years sort of testing some new messaging, essentially around having a conversation around things like sibling matings and the one litter myth. This is an example here at the bottom of someone, Amina, who had her cat done as a result of the campaign. And that was obviously the issue around sort of sibling mating. So that's just an indicator of how successful this sort of conversational approach is going. And we translated that communication into our community activities as well. This is an example of branches, RSPCA, cats protection branches, working together with the local vets delivering activities on the ground. In terms of what we're doing with the veterinary profession, we've launched the kitten neutering database. This was the Cats Protection's early neutering database, if anyone remembers that, and it's old guys. It has been rebranded the Kitten Neutering Database, and it's something that we've been promoting heavily to the veterinary profession, attending the British Small Animal Veterinary Association Annual Congress for the last couple of years, running CPD events for vets, and encouraging this collaboration on the ground as well. Okay, so just quickly to the results. We are now starting to see this year-on-year increase in neutering rates of owned cats, from 86% in 2012 to 92% in 2015. We are seeing a reduction in the percentage of owners who believe in this one litter myth as well. So, you know, those messages, that change in sort of public messaging is starting to get through. And we are seeing more vets signing up, but we've got a lot of work to do in this area. That's just a quote from Celia Hammond, who has worked in cat rescue, driving this issue for many years, and in her words, it's working. Having this different conversation, using different language, is working with the people that she's talking to. There is a but. We're still not seeing a reduction in the rate of unplanned litters, and we haven't yet reached the tipping point with vets, so we're not going hurrah quite yet. We've got a lot more work to do. So the takeouts are: think people, not just animals. We've all been talking about that. Probably don't need to repeat that. Work together. I think this is a really important point. You know, do put aside any of those brand or territory issues and focus on that common goal. What is it that we're all working to achieve? And be prepared for the long haul. Behaviour change is not something that happens overnight. And constantly review progress. You know, we keep thinking we're making progress in one area, but actually finding that something that we've been doing hasn't been working particularly well in another. So constant review, accept those failures, and celebrate success. And I'm just going to celebrate our success quickly. 2 awards we've won this year. So, you know, collaboration is good in that sense as well. We're not just a finalist, we're a winner of the Third Sector Charity Partnership of the Year Award for this year. Thank you.